Well, believe it or not, Israel is headed to their fifth election in 4 years, and it comes during a precarious time in the region as Iran continues to amass a stockpile of enriched uranium in an attempt to produce nuclear weapons. So who is Yair Lapid, the man who took over today as Israel's 14th prime minister? And what are the worldwide implications of this upcoming election that it's headed towards? Here to answer that and a lot more, New York Times bestselling author and the editor-in-chief of @All Israel News, Joel Rosenberg. Joel, always great to see you. Listen, I think most Americans would know who Benjamin Netanyahu was. He was the longest-serving prime minister of Israel. But over the last year, we started to hear this name, Naftali Bennett. He was the last prime minister. Officially last night, we got a new one, though. Yair Lapid, you mentioned this in a tweet. A lot of people don't know who he is. You do. What can we expect from him?
Well, Sean and Lindsay, look, the way you just set it up, it's all true. It sounds like a Seinfeld episode, right? You got Iran days away from breaking out and building nuclear weapons, and so the Israeli government implodes. And we go from one prime minister who was a defense minister, Naftali Bennett, to a guy who did serve in the military but didn't finish high school, Yair Lapid. So you're like, wait, what? How is that even possible? But look, the short version is we are heading to a fifth round of elections in just 3 years. I've only been an Israeli citizen for 8 years, and I've already voted 5 times, and we're getting to the 6th. So it's a crazy moment. But the good news is that Yair Lapid actually is not a left-winger. He's not crazy. Now, Bibi Netanyahu will say differently and say that he is a left-winger. But Yair Lapid actually has a lot of experience in government, and he's built the second largest political party in Israel, and he's been serving in the government, in the security cabinets for many years. So he's ready, and he's got a good team around him, mainly the defense minister, Benny Gantz, who was the chief of staff of the Israeli military. And last point, Naftali Bennett, who's been the prime minister for the last year and is now stepping down, but he's going to stay in the government until the elections. He was the defense minister. He was a special forces guy. So Yair Lapid has good people around him, but we are heading into a very messy political season right when Iran is getting closer and closer to breaking out to nuclear weapons capability. So keep your eyes tuned to Newsmax and to All Israel News. It's going to be an interesting season ahead of us.
Just for the record, I was going to say, instead of a Seinfeld episode, it sounds like a Joel Rosenberg novel.
Yeah, it looks like one of your books. Okay. Let me ask you this, though, because this election is in November. Can Lapid win re-election?
Yeah.
Well, all right, in a parliamentary system, Lapid cannot win. He's got the second largest party, but what he needs is a coalition. The challenge for Lapid is that Israel has become a center-right country. There's like 80 seats on the center-right, and Lapid is centrist, but he draws mostly from the center-left. Okay, now Netanyahu is center-right. The problem with Netanyahu is not that there's not enough people who agree with him in our parliament. It's that he stabbed so many of them in the back, they don't want to serve with Netanyahu any longer. That is why we're going to the fifth round of elections. It's not Biden versus Trump, left, right, totally split country. No, the country, it's like having Trump as the only guy, except that everybody around him won't work with him anymore. That might be a little too close to home right now, so maybe that's not the best analogy, but I'm just saying it's a center-right country. And so Bennett's just, or Bibi is just struggling to find enough people who will still work with him, whom he hasn't, in their view, betrayed or stabbed in the back.
Well, speaking of Netanyahu and Trump, I want to play you what President Trump said to our own Rob Finnerty.
Right.
Would you support Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu running again in Israel?
Well, I was disappointed with him in certain ways, but overall I liked him very much. And yeah, I would, if he ran, I would certainly give it some thought. We'll see what happens. I don't know that that's going to happen. He disappointed me in certain ways, but he also did a very good job in other ways.
So, Joel, here's the thing that's interesting. In America, the Trump endorsement matters in the Republican Party. I've only got a minute left. Does the Trump endorsement matter in Israel?
It would, because people really love Donald Trump for all the all the challenges that he faces here, people don't see that there. They see that he was the most pro-Israel president in history. That interview was so important on Newsmax that we did a story on it, and it's the lead story on all Israel news right now. And I think but you hear in Trump, listen, Trump just said a few months ago to an Israeli reporter, F Bibi. Like, that's the tension. They agree with each other, but Trump is one more of these people that Netanyahu has, that feels that Netanyahu has betrayed them and then struggles with being a close ally of Netanyahu. That's Netanyahu's biggest challenge.
So just real quick, what are the odds, if you had to place odds right now on Netanyahu winning? 1 to, if you were placing money, where would you put it?
If I were a betting man at one of Trump's casinos, I would probably put my money 60-40 on Netanyahu to come back. He has taken his main rival, Bennett, off the field.
Awesome. Joel Rosenberg, always amazing with the insight that you bring. Thank you very much.
Great to be with you guys. Thanks.